What's up, everyone? I'm going to do another experiment today with the dry brine on these chicken quarters that I have. As you can see, they have their skin on, they're bone in. What I understand from my research is that when you have fattier cuts of meats with skin on, you typically want to do a dry brine. I think what the purpose of that is to draw out some of the moisture out of the skin to help the skin be a little crispier. I've never done that like when I've roasted a chicken in the oven and things like that, so that's why I'm going to experiment today. And for wet brines, you typically want to use those with water and your salt and your sugar and maybe a couple bay leaves or whatever on cuts of meat that are typically a little bit leaner. So like skinless chicken breasts or maybe like pork or whatnot. I've never dry brined before, so this is my first time. That's why it's an experiment. And what I have done here is like I said, I just have 3 chicken quarters here. Went ahead and trimmed off some of the extra fat and things like that I really don't want on here, and trimmed off like some extra like pieces of like bone and tail and whatnot, and then washed them really good, and then patted them dry, and then washed my hands and washed your sink. As you guys may know, like when you're playing with meats or cooking with meats, and especially like poultry and fish and whatnot, you really want to make sure that you sanitize good to help reduce the spread of like salmon. My dry brine consists of kosher salt and coarse ground black pepper. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sprinkle this on pretty liberal and let these sit in my fridge for about 5 or 6 hours, maybe even longer than that. And again, what I'm trying to do here is draw out a lot of that moisture from the skin so the skin is nice and crispy when I go to throw it on my Weber. Once I pull these out and I'm ready to actually throw these on the grill, I'm gonna try this tangin. I think it's tangin. I think that's how you pronounce it. Basically, to me, it's like a Mexican seasonal salt with a pinch of lime in it, and I will rub these down really good with that just to get some more seasoning. Most people do like to brine larger cuts of meat like turkeys, whole chickens, and things like that to really get a lot of that flavor inside the meat. So that's where this is going to come in, and me just rubbing it down. It's going to take place of long brines or even marinades for that matter. I am a huge marinade fan. You guys, hopefully, if you've watched any of my other cooking videos, I use a couple different ones like Buckaroos here that's just made in Idaho, and then another one called Dale. So I'm a huge fan of marinades. And so if these turn out like shit, I will know not to ever do a dry brine again. But again, it's fun to experiment. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And like I said, I'm just gonna throw these on. I'm not gonna add any type of like mustard or Worcestershire or even oil. I'm just gonna sprinkle this on, and over time, like I said, I'm hoping to draw a lot of the moisture out of the skin, which is why I'm not seasoning the underside of this where the meat is exposed. So again, you guys can do whatever you want. Choose not to dry brine, just choose to throw the damn chicken quarters on your grill and get them barbecued up. Typically I do like to make my own barbecue sauce, but I'm feeling lazy today. I'm cooking a wife beater because it's supposed to be like 100 degrees today, so it's just hotter than shit. So forgive my white trashness, or I guess yellow trashness for that matter, because I'm not white. Yeah, I'm just gonna do like that and let these sit in the fridge for 6-7 hours, and we'll be back when I'm ready to throw these on. All right, so I wanted to do a quick update, and as you can see a lot of the moisture being drawn out of the skin from that salt and pepper, which is gonna be awesome. It's gonna help our skin get nice and crispy when I throw it on the grill. I'll have a hot side on my grill and then a colder side to let these kind of roast. Temperature I'm shooting for is about 165 to 170, in between there. Something I was gonna say as well, I guess I have done something similar for dry brining. When I do like larger cuts of beef, specifically like prime ribs or like tomahawk steaks, I will salt them, get them all seasoned up with kosher salt, and stick them in the fridge for like a day, maybe even up to 2 days, depending on how large the cut of meat is. And the reason for that is, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but salt and sugar tend to draw out, I know I have, salt and again, tends to draw a lot of the moisture, and I want to do that on larger cuts of beef because I'm not worried about all the moisture out of the beef being drawn out. And I do that because I want a nice sear, a nice brown crust on like my tomahawk steaks and my prime ribs. Smaller cuts of meat like this, or especially things that aren't protected by skin or skin or anything else, will tend to dry out a lot quicker if you leave them salted or in sugar for long periods of time. Same with like citrusy types of things like lemon. So when I make chicken tenders, I marinate them in lemon with like lemon zest, lemon juice, and I only leave them in the marinade for maybe, a few hours, if that, because the citrus slowly starts cooking the meat, the chicken, for that. But I guess I have done this to sorts, but never done it with chicken. Anybody who is new to cooking with charcoal, you want your coals to be gray ultimately. Otherwise, you can kind of get a bitter taste if, I would say like maybe 50% of them aren't gray and like burning, but these are perfect. So I decided not to use that Mexican spice stuff. I'm sure it's good, it's super good, but I felt that because all of our chicken had enough salt and pepper on it, and honestly, I would dare to say that some of even the under meat has probably gotten a little seasoned. So I'm just gonna throw these on. Again, if they're undersalted, then it is what it is. I can always add to it, but I can't take away. And the skin's almost translucent on these quarters, and so, like I said, I'm gonna throw these on and hope for the best. I'm gonna throw them on the cooler side, as you can see, and then cover it with my lid, and let these just roast for a little bit, kind of like roasting a chicken in your oven. I'm gonna put these as far away from the flame as I can, leaving the thighs exposed to the majority of the heat, because those are probably gonna take the longest to cook as opposed to our legs. So I'm gonna cover this, maybe turn down a vent underneath, and roast these for a little bit. But I'll probably flip them over after the skin is kind of crisped up a little bit, and just to get some char on the other side. But temperature's about 460 degrees or so. I'm gonna check these. They've only been on for about 10 minutes. They look and smell delicious, and I'm not overly concerned about if the temperature rises, because I really want that thigh meat to roast a little bit before I sear it off on the hotter side of the grill. I'm just gonna let them do their thing for like another, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so, and then open up the vents, sear them off on the skin side to really make sure that I try and get as crispy as I can. I don't know how well this is gonna work out. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever tried to dry brine chicken. Temperature's at like 397 or 5 or so. I'm gonna check these. I set a timer for 20 minutes the last time we did this, and there's still like 4 minutes left on it. So, oh shit. Well, the one skin ripped. That's fun. But the other two are looking fucking gorgeous. It's funny. Every piece of meat is different, right? I mean, they're all the same cuts and everything else, but I swear to God, most of the time they fucking cook differently. So what I'm gonna do is, because you can see this big boy over here is still not as, I guess, roasted as I wanted it to be. This guy in the middle here is looking good. The fucking skin tore. But you can see the skin peeling up from the bone on the legs, and that's a good sign. I'm gonna switch these. I'm gonna rotate them and move them around a little bit, like you would with charcoal. Hit our 5-minute mark, and again, we're still sitting at like 495 or so. Shit, I don't know. Our chicken starting to look really good. You can see, again, this was an experiment, and so I'd never dry brined before. Probably left it in there way too long because I definitely don't want the skin to be peeling back and splitting the way that it is on those 2 quarters. But I think this is still going to be awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip them just to get some char on the other side. You guys do whatever you guys want to do. This, your chicken's your chicken. This is what I'm doing, and I thought I would try dry brining. And honestly, so far I think it's going to be good. The skin is super thin, which is what you want for like crispier skin. And maybe I should clarify, I'm not looking for Colonel Sanders like extra crispy. That's not what I'm going for. What I'm talking about is like crispy skin enough to where you bite it once and you don't drag the entire fucking thing along with you with your fucking teeth. That's what I'm talking about. And like a little bit of crunch, but again, we're not looking for Colonel Sanders extra crispy. Looks beautiful, right? It's not burned at all or anything. What I'm doing here is just crisping as much as I can the skin side of these quarters just by putting them over direct heat. You can see some of our seasonings falling off. It's only been a few minutes and I decided to go ahead and take them off direct heat and just let them do their thing. Again, skin side down, and these aren't burnt at all. You can tell that these are gonna hopefully be cooked perfectly. You can tell, again, the skin and the meat pulling off bones here. That's exactly what you're looking for. I'm not trying to smoke these. I was gonna throw some cherry wood on it, said not to, but I'm really worried about that big ass piece right there. I just want to make sure that everything's cooked perfectly. Again, the temperature that you're typically looking for on chicken is about 165. Those are looking gorgeous, so I'm going to probe just the big one here just to make sure that I'm around temperature. I know that these 2 smaller ones are for sure, but just to show you. Oh, well. 165 is what you're shooting for. That's overrating. These are going to be just about perfect. And what I'm going to do is, again, typically what I do is make my own barbecue sauce with like strawberry jam, molasses, ketchup, mustard, I mean, all that other stuff. But what I'm going to do is just be lazy and use some of this Tabasco whatnot. And I'm just gonna paint some on one of these, probably that bigger one, because the other 2 are for my son and my wife. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just squirt a little bit on here. I'm only, again, gonna do one of these because my wife and my son don't typically care for store-bought barbecue sauce. I make my own for the most part, and I'm gonna smoke a brisket here in a couple days, and I'll show you that because I am gonna make my own barbecue sauce for that. But just make sure that you get on both sides. Looks awesome. It smells super good. I'm gonna turn down all the vents on the top and the bottom and let this just set for a little bit. These have sat for about like 5 minutes or so, and it doesn't take very long for the barbecue to get incorporated with the chicken. So I'm gonna pull theirs off because, again, they don't want barbecue sauce, and their chicken is done for sure. And I just want to show you the back side of that. You see that? It's not burnt or anything, but that's what I'm going for. The skin looks awesome. I think the dry brine did it for us. I think I will definitely try this recipe again with the dry brine. Maybe add some additional herbs and whatnot. But we'll see if the chicken's juicy though. Really, that's the main factor at all of this, right? You don't want dry chicken. My larger piece in the center and kind of turned it a little bit because I want more of that fat to render down. So I pulled the other two pieces off. They look awesome. So I probed the other two and they were absolutely out of temperature, but just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna probe the leg here. And again, that's reading way too high because my coals are so close. And then do the thigh, obviously way over 165. These aren't going to be dry. Well, maybe they are. I guess we'll get them inside and see. But they look good to me. You can see a lot more of the fat is kind of rendered off. But I didn't want to burn them by any means, and I didn't want to overcook them. But I may have just done that. So, alright, just to kind of show you, that meat is still juicy and tender as hell. You can see the juice is just pouring out right there. I'm sorry, this is on a white plate, and I'll get better with that. But like I said, I'm not overly concerned about doing a thigh and a quarter, I guess, with dry brine because there's enough fat in there to keep the moisture. But you can just see no red juices, all clear. That's what you're looking for. Temperature was totally fine. And in my opinion, yeah, you can see all the juice just running out. That looks good to me though.